Paul Saccone.
Thank you. So we're going to demonstrate Resolve 12. It's awesome. I'm super excited about it. For those of you that don't know what Resolve is, it might be one of those pieces of software you've heard about and you're like, oh, that's color, I don't need to worry about that. Well, Resolve is the color correction and creative grading software used to finish more feature films, television shows, and commercials than anything else out there in Hollywood. So what you're getting now is an NLE with all those great color tools. So we spent the last few years putting in editing functions, and this year with the release of Resolve 12, we are finally ready to say this is a full-blown professional NLE. So from your first cut to your last cut, you can do everything here in Resolve, and I'm going to just jump right in and show you. So here is Resolve. If you've never used the app before, I'll take you on a really quick tour through the interface. At the bottom of the screen, you can see there are 4 buttons, and these are pages in the application. The first is the media page, and this is basically where we get all of our media into the app. So there's no import dialog or import window. So what you're seeing on the top of the screen basically are all of the attached drives on my system. On the bottom of the screen is all of the media files that have been imported into this particular project. You can see your audio, you can see your metadata, you can turn these things on and off if you'd like. So right now I'm not inspecting anything, which is why we don't see metadata. We could show all groups. I'm going to turn my audio off. So for metadata, we've got metadata upon metadata upon metadata. If you're one of those people that loves metadata, have fun. It's great. So when it comes to bins, I can create bins here just by adding bins. I can do arbitrary bins, so I can organize my media however I'd like. I can put footage in any folder that I want. Or if you are one of those metadata people or are used to having an assistant editor do all your logging and stuff for you, you can actually create smart bins. And smart bins basically let you sort and find footage based on metadata. So you could create a smart bin that finds all of your red footage or all of your ARRI footage or all of your interview footage or all of your footage that was shot in New York. So if there's metadata attached to a file, you can create a folder or a smart bin that finds it for you. And every time new footage is added to the project that contains that metadata, this bin will automatically show you those contents. So whether you want to do manual arbitrary folders and bins or metadata-based ones, you can do that. Then we have the edit page, which is where we're going to spend most of our time on this demo. The color page, which is where all of the color correction tools are found in Resolve, which we'll spend a little bit of time on. And then our deliver page, and this is where you do all of your encoding, whether you're going out to QuickTime or DNx HD or ProRes. We do all of that stuff here on this page. So let's jump right into the edit page. One of the things, if you've used Resolve before, is that you'll notice is the user interface is a little different. We've modernized the user interface. It's now customizable, so I can turn things on and off, so I can make my windows really big. I can add my media back there. I can turn my inspector on. I can turn these things off. I can have them go down the full side of the screen. So totally customizable. You can just make it fit however your workflow and however you're accustomed to working. So I'm going to start really with the very basics because I got to prove to you guys that it's an editor now, right? So how many people out there are using Media Composer? Good chunk. How many people are using Premiere? A bigger chunk. How many people are on Final Cut 7? As many people as are on Premiere. Interesting. How many people are on Final Cut 10? Okay. Wow, so we've got a really good mix here today. All right. The good thing is we interoperate with all of them. So, but Resolve is cool because it's awesome, and let me show you. So first thing that you're going to notice is that in this project I've got some footage, and I'm starting with log encoded footage. And one of the things that you want to do as an editor is you want to make your log encoded footage look good. You don't want it to be drab because you want to have some stuff that looks better to edit with. So in Resolve, one of our strong suits is color, of course. I can go in and change the input color space. I can tell Resolve that all of these particular clips were shot with my Blackmagic camera. And what this does is, as soon as I touch the play, you can see it's normalizing the footage so that I don't have to do a grade. You can instantly begin working with great looking log footage. And what it's doing here is not applying a LUT like you would get in other NLEs. LUTs basically map from one color space to another and can result in clipping. What we're doing here is, with the DaVinci Color Science, is we're doing a proper mathematical transformation of the color from one space into the other. So you're not losing any data. You still have all your latitude, all of your color fidelity, so you can grade above or below this operation. It doesn't matter where in the chain you do your grade, you're never losing data. All right, so now our footage is looking good. We can go in and start editing. So double click a clip to load it into the viewer here or the source monitor. Marking an in and out point is very simple. I or O key. Use the buttons on the interface if you want. All the keyboard shortcuts are customizable. Let me just move my video targets. So somebody was mentioning earlier about tracks and locking and targets and stuff. All of that stuff is right here in Resolve on the left side of the timeline. So you can set your targets, you can lock your tracks, you can change your selection modes. It's all, thank you, thank you. Okay, so look, I'm not gonna do this if there's not gonna be gratuitous applause. Because, keep it alive, people, let's go. All right, so now I've edited a clip into my timeline. Let's say I wanted to go in and fill this gap here on my timeline. I'm going to do a simple 3-point edit. So I'm going to add another in point, another out point, and then I'm going to load another clip here in my source monitor, and it already has an out point marked. So what I'm going to do now is just drag this over, and you can see this cute little edit pop up. Some of you that raised your hand have seen this before. And there you go. It drops it right in there, and it does the back time edit. So basic assembly. It's all great. It works exactly as you would expect. Let's get into some trimming now. So in trimming mode, and you can use some of the trim tools like ripple and roll in your normal selection mode, but in the trim mode, you have a few more options I'm going to show you. So when I point the cursor in between two clips, it's a standard A/B roll tool. When it's on the edge, it's a ripple tool. I can ripple one or both sides. And this is pretty cool. Let's say I have this clip and I like the center of this shot, but I want to just make this shot shorter. I can ripple both sides simultaneously and make this shot shorter and keep the stuff in the middle, which is really kind of cool. That gets some applause. All right. Okay, so ripple roll, it's all there. Slip and slide. So when I do my slips, I basically get a 4-up display on the top right. So what the 4-up display shows us is it shows us in the top left quadrant, it shows us the first frame of this clip that we're editing and the last frame on the right. The two clips on the bottom of the 4-up display are the clip on the left and the clip on the right, the last frame of the clip on the left and the first frame of the clip on the right. So as you're making these edits, you can always make edit decisions with confidence because you can see exactly what frames are going to be matching up with each other. Also, moving the cursor down here, it's a slide tool. So my whole point with this context-sensitive stuff is that depending on where you point, it's actually changing tools dynamically for you. So you don't have to keep going back and forth to a toolbar or keep hitting your keyboard. It just knows what you want to do based on where you're clicking. Thank you. All right. One of the other things that is really cool about the way we edit in Resolve is that we can edit multiple clips simultaneously. So if I go and I select these 4 clips here, I can go in and I can slip all 4 clips. Now, when I slip them, all of their thumbnails are going to update when I let go of the mouse button because I'm actually editing 4 clips at once. See if I zoom in a little closer on it, you can maybe see those. So you can edit multiple clips at the same time. I can also slide these, so maybe I like the way this group of clips is edited together and I don't want to change the timing of those 4 clips. I can just grab them as a unit and slide them anywhere in my timeline. So editing multiple clips is kind of powerful. It lets you do some neat things. Let's say, for example, you've got this credit roll, and I don't know who this guy is. You've got this credit roll at the end of your program, and your producer comes in and says, we got to make the whole show 10 or 20 seconds shorter. Well, you can go in and you can lop off a second or two on each of these credits here, but because we can edit multiple clips at the same time, I can just grab them all, and I can make them all longer and shorter. All right, that one's cool. Come on. So I can also type numeric values. I've been using the mouse for everything. There's keyboard buttons on the interface. There's keyboard controls. I can go into my prefs here if I want, and I can go to my keyboard mapping. You can define your own key sets. We give you some for the most popular editors. Apparently some guy named Fred uses the system. He has Freditor in there. So you can create your own keyboard sets. That's pretty funny, actually. And it's great. So learning Resolve is easy. First, it behaves exactly as you expect an NLE to behave. If you're used to using a traditional track-based NLE, it works exactly as you expect. Second, you can customize the keyboard shortcuts. You can customize the user interface. So getting in and trying Resolve is a no-brainer, especially because it's free, right? What? What? Oh. Wait, there's more.
Did you guys ever play around with the idea of the magnetic timeline when this was being developed?
No, we decided that, so basically the development of these tools comes from the fact that we started at the very high end for finishing, for feature film and commercial and television finishing. And what happened is people were asking us for some editing tools because, once the picture is locked, and it's never really locked, somebody wants to do a quick nudge or a minor change, instead of having to go back to their creative editorial suite, they asked us for editing tools here so that they could just, make their final adjustments here. So that just kept growing over the years. It's like once we could do a little, people wanted more. So we basically worked with the Hollywood community to define the editing feature set for Resolve. And what everybody told us in LA at least was that they wanted a track-based timeline. So that's what we built. So let's look at some more advanced editing stuff. First, asymmetric trimming. So asymmetric trimming is basically the ability to trim multiple edit points in opposite directions at the same time. So why would you use this? Maybe you want to open a gap in your timeline or close a gap or something like that. So that's really super easy to do. In Resolve 12, you can now select multiple edit points on the same track. So notice I've got 2 edit points selected on my V1 track. So as I drag with the mouse, you can see I'm opening and closing gaps in the timeline. And basically, the way the sync model works is everything downstream of my selected edit point stays in sync. So it's not magnetic, but objects don't lose sync arbitrarily unless you lock a track or turn its target off.
You switch it around so it's the other direction.
No, it's just downstream. So the question was, can you switch it so you keep everything to the left of your edits in sync instead of everything to the right? And the answer is no. It's looking that way.
What is this footage?
So this is ProRes HQ that I'm working in now. So that's asymmetric trimming. I'm going to show you dynamic trimming. So dynamic trimming is the ability to basically edit live during playback. So you can loop around an edit point and you can be editing live. We need to do an audio thing. Let's. No, why no? We haven't. There we go. All right, let's try that.
Believe that they have it correct, and so they like their seat at a funny.
Good. So all I do is I hit the W key, and you can see on the user interface we go into dynamic trim mode. So now I can use my JKL keys.
Slightly brand the setup of the.
And when I hit K and stop, it moves the edit point. And I can do this forward or backwards. And we get audio. So audio is a huge area of improvement in Resolve 12. Brand new audio engine under the hood. High performance, works with high bit rate, high sample rate audio. It lets me do all of my dynamic trimming while I'm still listening to my audio, regardless of the speed. So I can do it fast.
Slightly different. Some way that they.
I can do it slow. So cool audio tricks with our NLE. All right. So let's go down my timeline a little bit, and I'm just going to go down to these clips, and we're going to add a dissolve. So we have a full effects library here, and we call it a toolbox for all the built-in stuff. So you see we've got all of our dissolves, titles, generators, and stuff in here, third-party plugins, and then audio plugins as well. Adding a transition is as easy as clicking on an edit point and selecting the duration. You can define the default transition and these durations. So you don't have to add a transition and then set the duration. You can do it all in one fell swoop, which is pretty cool. Saves you some time. All right, let's zoom in on this.
Customize that transition?
You can customize that transition, absolutely.
In the timeline?
What's that?
In the timeline?
Yep, I'm about to show that. Why, I'm glad you asked if you could customize transitions in the timeline, because you can. The old way of doing it is here in the inspector, which you can certainly do, or you can just click open here and you have a full curve editor right in. Right. I know, it's cool. So maybe I want this dissolve to start slow and then ramp up at the end. It just does it. Maybe I want it to be the other way. Let me just grab this here. I'm going to grab this. My mouse is.
Are you able to save that preset that you're
Why, that's an excellent feature request. The question is, will you be able to save that as a preset? And that's an excellent feature request. I'm working on alpha software. We're going to have a public beta probably within the next 4 weeks or so, and then ship in hopefully 4 to 6 weeks or maybe a month after that. So excellent idea. I will pass it along, and maybe we'll get it in. So what's that? You can copy and paste transition, sure. So this curve editor that I'm showing you is new for transitions, but any parameter that is keyframeable in Resolve has an integrated curve editor in the timeline. So no matter what kind of animations you're doing, you can actually see your animation curves and your keyframes in the timeline, not in a separate window, not in a separate program, right there in context with the timing of your show. It's really, really awesome way to animate. Speaking of animation, we're going to bring another clip in. I'm going to get a graphic file. This is going to seem a little silly, but this is huge for Resolve because we could never do what I'm about to do before. This is big stuff for us. I'm finding my demo media. There's my graphics. All right, I am dragging and dropping from the Finder. I know, it's the little things, right? Seriously, for anybody that's used Resolve before, this is a huge pain point because you'd have to go back to the media page, do a media import, find it on your drives. Now you can just drag and drop stuff in from the Finder or the Windows Explorer. How many people use Windows? Oh, wow, okay, so I did this presentation in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, and we had about the same number of people in the room, and I said, how many people use Windows? 1. I was like, wow, okay. And for how many people use Linux here? All right, well, that's one more than in San Francisco. All right. Yeah. Yeah, so Resolve is Mac, Windows, Linux. It's available on all 3 platforms. So here we would do our animation, and you could do it the old-fashioned way in the inspector, where you would set a keyframe, and actually I'm going to make this a little bigger so I can see it. I'm going to just adjust the size and position of this object. So we've set a keyframe now. You move the playhead. You could set another keyframe here and do it all manually if you want. But in Resolve 12, we now have on-screen motion paths and Bezier handles and controls for our animations. So you could do it by the numbers, or you can just be really creative and just drag the stuff around wherever you want. All right. So that's a really quick overview of some of the core editing stuff. Let me jump into some audio stuff now for a second.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Does it do any kind of, is there ever rendering or is there background?
Yeah, you can get into situations where you have to render. Most of the stuff that I'm showing so far has all been pretty straightforward and pretty simple, like dissolves and a composite. But when you get into some of the higher end stuff, you will need to render, and you can set smart rendering or user rendering, where smart rendering is it'll just render the first time you play through something, so that the next time you play through it, it'll play back at full speed. Or you can do user-based rendering, which is where you can force renders of specific clips if you want. All right, that's a great question. So I'm going to go to audio. So here on the top left, I have my media pool, which is my media library. I'm going to open my sidebar, and I've got my bins here. And I'm just going to switch to another timeline, which has some audio. Now, let's just check our volume. Just turn it up a little bit. All right, that's great. So I'm just going to close that for a second. All right, so I'm going to turn on my audio mixer. So this is our new audio mixer. It's docked at the bottom right. For now, you can tear it off into its own window if you want as well. And then we do support dual screen layouts too. So you could go in and you can option click to add keyframes and adjust levels for audio right in the timeline. This is not new for Resolve. We actually have these fade handles, which are cool, so you can fade in and out of audio without having to add a transition. You can actually do that with video too, fade handles. So you don't need to add a transition. I know, right? It's the little things. I'm telling you, it saves you a lot of time. All right, so one of the new features is the ability to actually automate our faders. So fader automation. You can record your movement of the faders in real time while it's playing back. So I'm going to turn that on now. Oh, right here you'll see I've got a track and a clip button. All of the audio operations can be done at either the track level or the individual clip level. So I'm going to do it at the clip level here. And let's see, I'm going to go to touch mode here in my fader, and then watch, it's going to draw the keyframes as I start riding the fader while it's playing back.
Thought about it before, and if somebody actually sat down and described to me a bicycle before they'd ever did it.
So totally fun. You get to watch the keyframes draw and everything, and then you can, of course, thank you. You can go back in and you can edit them if you want to later. So that is, what's that? What are all the dots? Those are the keyframes. Oh, I'm sure they are. I haven't reached the upper limit for the number of keyframes yet. So let's look at some effects. We now support third-party audio effects. On the Mac, you get audio units and VST plugins. On Windows, you get VST because there are no audio units on Windows. And unfortunately for our Linux customers, there are no audio plugins, sorry to say. But it's a small price to pay. So here I'm going to just grab one of our third-party, we'll use a hum remover plugins, and this is from our friends at Isotope. So when I open the inspector, you can see that the parameters for that plugin are now in my inspector. I can animate, I can keyframe. But one of the cool things we do is if I click this little icon, you actually get the fact that I haven't authorized this copy. It's a demo machine, and we're doing a demo, so I'm going to click the demo button. But basically, a lot of these audio plugins have their own specific user interfaces, and we support the custom user interfaces from the audio manufacturers. So you can do all of your work in their interface, close the window, save the changes, or you can do it here in the inspector. So pretty cool stuff. All right, let's take a look at multicam. How many people do multi-camera editing? Wow, a lot more than I thought. All right. Well, good, because we do too, which is great. All right, so let me just, I'm going to resort these so they sort from 1 to 9 like I want them to. So here are some clips that we shot of it's a music video. To create a multi-camera group with which to edit, you select them and you right-click and you create multicam clip using the selection. So now it asks me how you want to name it. It asks me for the frame rate. So you could have clips with different frame rates, and this is basically the frame rate that it's going to conform them all to in your multi-camera grouping. It asks you how you want to sync them. So if you've manually marked in and out points for sync, you can sync that way. If you've jam synced all of your cameras by time code and all the time code lines up, you can do that. Or you can actually sync by sound. And what this does is it analyzes the audio waveform on each of the angles, finds out where the audio waveforms match, and then synchronizes the picture accordingly. Yeah. It's pretty cool. It is really awesome because now you can go out and you can shoot multi-camera stuff, and as long as you've all got your mics turned on and you're recording scratch audio on your camera, you don't have to worry about sync ever again. It's amazing.
Can you see a very high frame rate, 240 frames a second, so you can use different frame rates for each angle?
These are the frame rate choices. So I'm going to create my multicam clip, and let me just make. Now don't steal my thunder. We're getting there. All right. So here is my multicam viewer. So in the bottom of my source monitor, I can look at offline clips to do comparisons, my source video, my source audio, or my multicam. So I'm going to just turn this down. I got it here. It's fine. So here's our multicam viewer, kind of standard. If you've done multicam editing in pretty much any NLE, it's going to look familiar. You have buttons to cut just audio, video, or audio and video together. You can also set your layout for your grid. And if you've got more video than you do spaces in the grid, you can use these page forward and back buttons as well. We're going to stick with the 3x3 because I've got 9 clips here in my multi-camera grouping. Editing is super simple. Keyboard shortcuts, which are user definable, or just click on the angle you want to see, so I'm going to do that. Of course, I've picked a boring part of the song. Let me go back here. And as I click, you can see it's going to make the edits down on my timeline. So let's just zoom into that.
So you don't have to do anything else with the sound at this point. It's already synced.
Yeah, the sound is already synced, and I actually selected to just cut the video because I've got the same sound on all my angles. But yeah, you can choose, you can even lay in you can have an audio-only angle as well. So you could lock, say I have my final mix of my audio for this song. I could have that as one of my angles, lock that off as my audio, and then switch my video around it. So it's pretty cool. As you click through, you can see that it's highlighting the angle that's selected. If I don't like the angle, I can option click to swap it to a new one, or I can right click to just switch it here. All of the editing tools that I've been showing you so far work just the same with multi-camera clips as they do with regular clips. And then if you want to, you can open this into a timeline, and I am going to make these really small so that we can see all of them. And I'm going to move this up a little bit. And here are all of my angles. So let's say you need to manually go in and sync something. You can just move these around. If you want to add an angle, you can do that here too, if you need to fix things. But the really cool part of this is now I can just select these, go to my color page, and I can grade all of my angles. Then when I switch back to my edit page, all my grading's done. It doesn't matter which portions of the clips I used or whatever, it's all graded. It's all done. Thanks. All right. So at the bottom left of the screen, you'll see that there's a little breadcrumb trail. We're looking at the Multicam group that I just made, which I have very creatively called Multicam. And this is in my timeline, which is called 03 Multicam. So to get back to my timeline, I just double click and I'm back to where I started. So really easy to sort of decompose these things and go back and forth from the Multicam to your final timeline. So I'm going to get on to some effects stuff because I want to show you some of the color page goodness in Resolve. Because, you know, it's an NLE, and it's a great NLE, and I hope that you think that it's the best NLE you've ever used. But it's also got what we know are the world's best color tools. And you can use these for grading, you can use these for effects. So what we're going to do is a green screen composite. And we're going to do that. I'm just going to show you my background plate and my foreground plate. And we're just going to do this composite. And I'm going to show you how easy it is for an untrained, non-professional editor like me to make something look decent. So on the color page, just to give you a little organization, all of our tools are on the bottom half or third of the color page. So I've got palettes on the left side with my basic color tools. I've got palettes in the middle for things like curves, for my qualifiers, if I want to limit things based on color, the ability to draw windows or shapes around things, the ability to track things, so on and so forth. And then on the right, I have keyframes and my scopes and everything. The top of the screen shows me a gallery, which we're not going to use, so I'm going to turn that off, and it shows me my node tree. So instead of doing things in a layer stack where you apply filters and have different things in different layers, which can get confusing if you're doing some pretty deep stuff, right? We do this node tree here on the color page, which is a flowchart style. So basically, from left to right, it's image processing in to image processing out. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the green screen, and to do that I'm going to use our 3D keyer, and this does color keying in a 3D color space. So imagine, if you will, we're making a selection in a color cube. To make my green screen selection, I just draw a line over the green I want to get rid of. Now I'm going to show you the mat that we're building, and I'm just going to make it black and white. So this is my selection so far. I can add to that selection by swiping across more, and what you can see in the middle here, it's added 2 swatches, one for each of my swipes. This is the green that it's removing. Actually, in this case, black is being removed and white is being kept. So I need to reverse this, because there are times in Resolve where maybe you want to change the color of a wall. In this case, we want to remove the wall, so we're going to switch the matte because black is transparent. Now you can see I still have some noise in my matte. I have matte finesse tools here on the bottom, and the clean black one, I just click and drag it up, and it will automatically remove the noise from my black matte. So really, really easy to get a pretty clean key very quickly. So let's see what that looks like with our background. So by default, we send the RGB image data out of our little pipeline here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to also send the alpha we just created with that key so that we could see it against our background. All right? So now we've got our key, and that's looking pretty good. It's still a little green, so I'm going to click my despill button, and it's going to take the remaining green out of this. All right? So now you can see that I still got some rigging at the top here that we want to remove. So to remove that, I'm actually going to draw a mask around the guys in the boat. And basically the way this works, for those of you that have not done any kind of compositing or effects work, is anything that's inside the shape that I'm drawing stays, and when I close the shape, anything that's outside of it disappears, just like that. So this is great. We got rid of that extra rigging at the top, but now the boat is moving, and we're losing the mast. So for that, we need to track this shape that we just drew to the video underneath it. So I'm going to go to my next tool here. So we've used the keyer, the shape, the tracker now. So it's just all in workflow order here. So you can track things based on pan, tilt, zoom, rotation, or even perspective 3D, which is new in 12. So as an object's perspective changes over time, it will actually track that object. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to just track this forward, and I'm using a Mac Pro. It tracks it. That looks great. So now I've got my shape. I've got my green screen removal. The last thing that I need to do is some color correction because my foreground and my background don't match at all. So this is one of those times when I'm going to add another node to my tree, and I'm going to add a color corrector, and I'm going to place that right after the key. So this node has the key that we did, and now this one is going to change the color of this clip with the guys in the boat. So the great thing about Resolve is we know that we're now going to be adding lots of editors to our community and our growing family of users, and you're not all going to be great colorists like me. Like, I'm not a great colorist is what I'm saying. So we've put in some cool tools where I can just click on the background plate and I can say, match the foreground to the background. And boom. So there's our shot in my edit timeline. A couple of things before we wrap up. So you've spent a lot of time on this now. You don't ever want these items to get out of sync. So what you can do is you can go here and you can say, make it a compound clip. And now it's just a single editable object on the timeline. You can trim it, you can add dissolves, filters, effects to it. If you ever need to get back out, you just decompose it, and it's right there. Nesting of timelines works exactly the same way. I can nest timelines into each other and then decompose them or compose them in place to continue working on them as well. All right, so. You have to reapply it once you recompose it. The question was, what happens to a transition on the composed clip? If you decompose it, you're going to have to reapply it when you close the composition up again. So a couple more things, and then I'll take some more questions, okay? Because I just want to get through this. We're almost out of time. So here is the deliver page. I'm more than out of time, sorry. This is where we export everything. So the one thing I want to show you here, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the deliver page, but I just want to point out that we started as a color grading and finishing tool, and we know that not everybody in the room is going to use Resolve as their NLE. We know that some of you will still choose to use Final Cut 10, Final Cut 7, Premiere, Media Composer, and that's okay. We actually are really interoperable with all of them. We have Final Cut Pro 10 round tripping. Export to Final Cut Pro is the old Final Cut 7 round trip. That's the one you also use for Premiere because Adobe uses the old version. Avid, AAF, and new is an export to Pro Tools. So I could take a flattened video file, composited video file with all my individual audio files, hand those off to a Pro Tools guy as an AAF file. They can do all their mixing and mastering, send me the audio back, and then we've got our finished program here in Resolve. The other thing that I need to show you, not the sexiest thing, but it's one of the most important things, is media management. So we designed an entirely new media management system specifically designed for editorial workflows. So you can manage an entire project, timelines, clips, groups of clips, copy, move, transcode. You can, with handles, without handles, you can consolidate media. You can preserve your folder hierarchy in the Finder if you've organized media in the folder. You can delete things. All of that happens here. So if you want to take a project home over the weekend, create an offline version, you can do that. You can archive projects, relink media, all of that stuff right here. So that is the 34.5-minute tour of Resolve 12.